Hello, I'm making a quick tutorial video on how to set up and start using Unreal Engine 4 for this course, considering many people will likely use Unity and I personally have a weak spot for Unreal. I find it kind of unfair that nobody uses it. So let's give you a quick introduction, see if you want to use it, it's up to you. First we go to GitHub, same thing as with the previous Unity tutorial. We create a new repository. It's really simple, I'm already logged in. The repository name is going to be Simple Shooter. Why not? Let's make a shooter game this time. I'm not going to add a description. It's going to be a private repository. These repositories are free for everyone. You don't need a student account anymore since Microsoft bought GitHub. README, Git Ignore. Git Ignore is definitely needed. And we're going to look for Unreal Engine to get a good Git Ignore file. What a Git Ignore file does, it makes sure that no unnecessary files are shared amongst your peers. So in this case, that is compiled code, pre-rendered levels, compiled shaders, everything along those lines. So now that the project is completed, it's easiest to open up GitHub Desktop. Don't forget to download it if you don't have it yet. Just Google GitHub Desktop and it should pop up right away. There you go, pretty easy, download it for Windows. If you're not on Windows, then I assume you already know what you're doing with Git anyway. So good luck on that. Anyway, we go into the client, we click on the top left if you didn't see me do it, go to add and then clone and repository. You go to github.com, you should be logged in with your GitHub account in order to see the repository. So I called mine shooter game in this case, simple shooter, so I'm going to clone it. And that should be all. There we go, clone, perfectly fine. We're going to open the Epic Game Launcher, and I assume everybody in this course has heard about Fortnite at least once, so might already have this installed. Really simple. Open up the launcher. It's going to load really slowly. Then we move to Unreal Engine tab. Now, a good plus point in using Unreal Engine is that it sometimes has nice discounts on the marketplace, so you can get some free assets. Discounts can be pretty chill. Discounts are up all the way to 100%, as you can see here, so you can get a nice 100% discount on a €355 asset. Pretty chill, nothing too crazy, but let's move on to the important stuff. We go to the library. Here you can install different engine versions. You just click the plus button and install the latest version. You can scroll down. Nothing wrong with the latest version, just use that one, which is 4.25 in this case. You can launch it. It's going to take a bit, and that's going to allow you to create a project, logically. Okay, so we're going to go down here and we click on new project categories games because we're going to create a video game. How surprising. You can choose any template to get a basic understanding of how to make certain types of games. Really neat. I'm going to go for first person because usually shooters are first person. Popular ones are anyway. Gears of War, for example, isn't, but who cares? You can basically leave this. I mean, not many are going to have ray tracing, so it's not nice to use considering not many TAs are going to be able to grade you later. You might want starter content, it's up to you. It's a couple of free materials to use, and we're gonna go to where we cloned the GitHub repo to. For me, that is in my GitHub folder. Let me find it real quick. Projects, GitHub, and there should be a folder here now called Simple Shooter. So I'm gonna select that folder, call my project Simple Shooter, create a project. There we go. Nothing too crazy. So now that the loading is complete, we can press play and see that we have a nice little shooter game in which we can shoot at little boxes. Nothing too crazy. Alright, so now we have a video game. We have just created our first video game ever. So we can head back to GitHub. Mine closed in the meantime, so let me open it back up. So, and then we see a lot of new files are now present to be committed to the master branch. I'm going to quickly right click and show and explore to make sure the file structure is correct. If I go to the Simple Shooter project folder, so I can see here that it nested everything in a subfolder. I'm not a big fan of that, so I'm going to close the engine up real quick and I'm going to Control X all of these files and put them up one. And as soon as that completes, I'm going to delete the Simple Shooter file here. Go back to GitHub. Some files are now gone, which is good because now the Git Ignore is actually properly working. We're going to say this is the master commit. I committed to the master branch. So it's going to take a little bit. And once it's finished, we can actually push it to Origin, which means it's going to be uploaded to the GitHub repository. So it takes quite a while as well. So once it's finished uploading, you can now go back into GitHub and you should be able to see that in the repository we created, there are now some files. So anyone of your team can directly download or clone this repository. I would recommend, if available, just opening it with GitHub Desktop to easily add it. But I'll show in a second how you can edit through the client directly. So let's see how that works. Let's say I completely remove this repository, which works by right-clicking here on the shooter and removing it, and also move this repository to the recycle bin. Now all my files are completely gone. I no longer have the video game we just created, which is rather unfortunate. So let's go through the process of inviting someone and cloning it again, because as you can see, the files are obviously still available on GitHub. We didn't lose anything. So what we can do is we can go to settings here and we can go to manage access. Have to put in password real quick. And you can invite collaborators. So this is where you can invite your teammates by username, full name, or email. In my case, I'm going to use email, and then I can invite myself. Now you'll receive a email with a link through which you can accept this invitation. You have to log in on GitHub, and then you will be a collaborator with normal direct access. I don't think you have to do anything with it once you have accepted it. So if we then open up the GitHub desktop client again, let's say I am now a added user. I've just been invited to the project, I accepted the invitation, and now I want to start working on the project. So all I have to do is go back here, click on add again, clone repository, github.com, and again look for the shooter. Now I have access to it, I can clone it, and it's gonna download the files, the most recent version on the main branch, and allow me to work on them again. So you have to excuse me, the internet is a little slow, so it takes a little bit to download all the files again. And as soon as it's done, we're going to be able to dive right back into the engine. Keep in mind, once again, just a quick friendly reminder, the folder restructuring I did earlier is required if you want to make sure that GitHub is not going to be using pointless files and cluttering the repository with large files that are simply not needed for collaborators. So we go back in here, right click, show in Explorer, and then we can open the project. It's gonna take a little while to open it this time because all the shaders have to be compiled, the project has to be initialized. Luckily, it's still a very, very small project, so it should be done in no time, and there we go. So perfect, so I can't load the build data because it's not built yet. All you have to do is click the build button and it will start building the lighting for this level, but honestly the lighting preview is fine for most of the time. If you get this warning, just ignore it. It just says we need to rebuild, and then it starts rebuilding, and then the warning will be gone. It's nothing to worry about. I don't know why it gives the little icon to pretend something is terribly wrong, but it's totally fine, don't worry about it. Okay, so now that as a collaborator we have cloned, opened, built the project, we can make whatever edits we wish to do. For example, click on the little cube and move it around a bit. So now we have made a significant gameplay change, design change to the foundation of our level design. So the experience is now vastly better. So we have to share that with our team members. And as soon as you Control save this change, you should be able to see in GitHub that some files have changed. And now you can type like a little summary as of what did you change. Well, I significantly improved the gameplay flow in the main level. you can brag a little bit. So significant improvements should be recognized, of course. So if you are a design genius, then feel free to share that with your team members. And there we go, we just did it. We updated the main level. Now, what is important to know is that these level files, if you go into maps and you click on this level file, it's just one big file, and that's totally fine because the engine knows what is in that file. But unlike most collaborative work on GitHub, it is not a file with readable text. It is not a file with code. GitHub was designed to share and collaborate on code. So the issue here is that if two people are working on the same level, GitHub will not be able to see what the exact differences are between those levels. It will not be able to see when someone uploads level A and someone uploads level B that these are the same, but with the cube moved a little bit to the left or to the right. GitHub won't be able to tell that. So keep in mind to never, without asking your team members first, start working on a specific file. This is where it becomes incredibly important to decide who gets to work on what, to prevent massive merge conflicts. I think the same is the case for Unity, especially also when scripting, because the thing is, if you don't use code and you use the visual scripting instead, this is not code. GitHub will not be able to tell a difference between multiplying with the world delta seconds or creating a different value to multiply with. It can't see that difference. So you will get merge conflicts if two people work on the same file and then try to send that back to the GitHub server. So decide what to work on. Let one person work on the character. So if we right click this and browse to asset, one person gets to work on this file and this file, this file and this file. These files are property of that person. Another person gets to work on the map, so this file is property of that person. There are actually some services closely related to GitHub that provide the ability to claim a file so nobody else can even access it while someone is working on it already. But it's so difficult to set up that I'm not going to dive into it. So please, 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 this is a PSA. Try to avoid working on a file someone else is working on. Anyway, that concludes all I have to say about this. It's incredibly easy to create a project in Unreal, to upload it to GitHub, to share it with your peers. Keep in mind, on the final note, files can get pretty big pretty quickly, and GitHub has a size limit. So if you run into that, then you might have to creatively work around it or ask me for tips, which is totally fine. So I wish you good luck, and after this there's like a little second video in which I will show how to turn this super basic silly level into a actual AAA early access game. It's awesome. Stick around.